They banned it the first season anyone brought it to an American competition. Not after a review process, not after a committee vote, not after a hearing. The first season, someone showed up with it and the numbers came back. The tournament organizers knew they had a problem on their hands. A method that produced 3 times the catch of every other competitor does not stay in the rulebook for long, regardless of what it is. It does not matter if it is legal, natural, and costs almost nothing. What matters is that it cannot be sold in a bottle at a tackle shop, and that competition organizers answer to sponsors who need it to be that way. That is the short version of why this preparation was banned. The long version starts on the Volga River in the Soviet Union in the 1950s and ends with a jar in an Arkansas tournament bag. The method came out of Soviet fishing culture in the 1950s, passed quietly through communities along the Volga River for 2 decades. It was not a secret weapon designed for competition. It was how working fishermen on the Volga River fed their families, passed down through fishing communities the way practical knowledge moves, not through publications or product launches, just through results. A fisherman named Viktor Kozlov documented his version of the preparation in notes he kept across 30 years of fishing the Volga watershed. He was not a scientist, and he was not trying to publish anything. He was tracking what worked, the way every serious fisherman does, and this worked better than anything else he had found in 3 decades. Viktor described a preparation that he soaked his bait in before every session. He called it simply the fermented mixture, no special name, no mystique. The preparation had been in his family for 2 generations before him. His grandfather developed the base formula on the Volga in the 1920s, when there were no tackle shops to speak of, and no commercial attractants available, even if there had been money for them. What he had was time, grain, water, and the patience to observe results. Viktor refined it over 30 years until the proportion was consistent. He said the fish came from further away when he used it, and they came faster, and they stayed in the feeding area after the first few catches, in a way that fish in untreated water almost never did after a catch. The preparation produced a chemical trail in the water that Viktor described, as making the spot smell like feeding was already happening, even before any actual feeding had started in that spot. He could not explain the chemistry behind it at all. He just knew the fish responded to it the way they responded to nothing else he had tried in 30 years of working that river. After the Soviet Union fell and fishing culture started crossing borders, a handful of American anglers got hold of Viktor's notes through contacts in the Eastern European competitive fishing community. Most of them thought it was interesting, but probably overstated. One man named Bobby Crane from Jonesboro, Arkansas, decided to test it on his regional tournament circuit starting the following season. Bobby was a competent angler, consistently in the middle of the field, not the kind of guy who ever led the standings or finished in the top 5. He was the angler tournament regulars stopped noticing after a few events because he never gave them a reason to pay attention. That changed the season he started using Viktor's preparation. He used it for an entire season without telling anyone what it was. He won 4 of the first 6 tournaments he entered that year. Not close wins, not squeaking through on tiebreakers. He averaged about 3 times the median finisher catch weight each event. Other competitors started watching what he was doing on the water. They noticed the jar. Nobody recognized what was in it. The director called him in after the 4th win to inspect his bait. Bobby showed him everything, and the jar was sitting right there in the bag. He had never seen it before and had no category for it in the rulebook. He called 3 other organizers. They conferred for 2 hours, and they added language to the rulebook before the next event was scheduled. The exact preparation Bobby was using was prohibited by name in the amendment. The director told Bobby it created an uneven competitive environment where outcome depended on what a fisherman had in a jar. Bobby told him that knowing what to put in the jar had always been the skill. The director was not persuaded, and the ban held across the entire circuit. Before I get into exactly what is inside that jar, scan the QR code in the top left corner of the screen, or click the first link waiting in the description below. The Forbidden Baits add-on inside the Angler's Vault has 10 legal recipes, methods that cost almost nothing, and outperform commercial products every time. Stay here, because the 3 ingredients that made Bobby Crane the most dominant tournament angler in his circuit for 1 full season cost less than $2 and take 48 hours to prepare. Feed corn, active dry yeast, and warm water are all 3 ingredients. That is the entire ingredient list for the preparation that Bobby Crane used to dominate an Arkansas circuit for a full season, and that Viktor Kozlov's grandfather first developed on the Volga River. 3 items that together cost less than $2 and findable at any grocery store or farm supply before your next trip. Here's the exact preparation with the proportions that Viktor documented. Take 2 cups of whole feed corn, not sweet corn, not canned corn. Whole dry feed corn, the kind sold by the pound at any farm supply store. Place it in a clean glass jar or a food-safe container with a loose lid. Add 1 packet of active dry yeast, the standard 7-gram packet. Fill the jar with warm water until the corn is covered by about 2 inches. Stir once to distribute the yeast through the water. Place the lid on loosely and do not seal it tight. The fermentation process produces carbon dioxide as a byproduct, and that gas needs to be able to escape as the preparation develops. Set the jar somewhere warm, above 60 degrees Fahrenheit, and out of any direct sunlight during that window. Leave it undisturbed for 48 to 72 hours. You will know it is ready when the water has turned cloudy and slightly amber, when the grain is softened noticeably, and when the smell is distinctly sour. That sour smell is the signal that the fermentation is producing the chemical compounds that make this preparation effective in the water. Here's what is actually happening inside that jar and why it works. Yeast fermentation of grain produces 3 primary compounds simultaneously. Lactic acid, which creates a pH gradient in the water around the bait. Ethanol in trace concentrations, which acts as a carrier for scent molecules. And carbon dioxide, which creates the same microbubble activity that fish associate with insect emergence and bottom organism disturbance. All 3 compounds dissolve into the water around your bait on the cast. The lactic acid gradient spreads outward from the bait in a detectable trail. Largemouth and catfish detect pH changes through their olfactory system at concentrations far below what any instrument can measure. That trail reads to the fish as fermentation happening nearby, which means something organic is breaking down, which means food is present. The fish does not decide to investigate. It follows the gradient automatically. The combination of lactic acid, ethanol trace, and carbon dioxide produces a more complete feeding trigger than any single compound alone, which is why it outperforms single compound attractants in the same water. The commercial attractant industry cannot replicate this on a store shelf. Active fermentation continues changing after the preparation is made. The compound profile in a fresh 48-hour jar is different from the profile in a 72-hour jar, and different again at a week. A product that sits in a warehouse for 3 months before being purchased is not producing active fermentation chemistry of any kind. It is a stable preserved liquid that smells like something fermented. That is a fundamental difference that no formulation process can close. Viktor Kozlov understood this without knowing the chemistry terms for it. He knew the fresh preparation worked better than anything he could buy. He knew the preparation that had been sitting in a jar for 2 weeks was noticeably less effective than the one he had made 3 days before. Bobby Crane knew this too, which is why he made a fresh jar before each event. The organizers who banned it did not understand the chemistry either. What they understood was the results, and the results were not close. 3 times the median finisher in 4 of 6 events is not a variance. It is a signal, and they responded to the signal the only way they could. Dip your bait in the strained liquid for 3 seconds before each cast. Not the grain itself, just the liquid strained from the jar after fermentation. Reapply every 20 minutes or immediately after any catch. Each application stays effective for 15 to 20 minutes in open water, slightly longer in slow current where the trail disperses less quickly. In tournament fishing, this technique is restricted in most organized circuits. Check your local recreational fishing regulations before any trip. In standard recreational fishing across the United States, there are no restrictions on fermented grain preparations as bait treatments. The ban is tournament specific and does not apply to public recreational water. If you want 10 more methods at the same price point, the Forbidden Baits add-on inside the Angler's Vault has the full recipe list. Catfish killer dough, the ivory soap trick, bacon grease dip, and 7 more. All of them completely legal and all under $5 total. Scan the QR code in the top left corner of your screen or click the first link waiting in the description below. The complete system is waiting inside the Angler's Vault.